So proud of my son the other day. He came to me about a month ago, and we've been struggling with some stuff. And so we've been just having these really great talks. And he said, Dad, I've been thinking about what we talked about yesterday. And he said, you know what I think the problem is, really? I said, no. He said, I think my life has been too easy. And now you'd say that to me, and I really wanted to pounce and say, oh, I'll make it tough for you. But he was right. And the wisdom of this kid, if we just would look at ourselves and say, his life, he's had some issues, but he's also had a sweet life that nobody else has had. You know, he's been raised in a family that has opportunities that nobody else has, but he also still struggles with everything else that everybody else struggles with. That is really the American story. We're throwing temper tantrums because this is so difficult. No, you don't know what difficult is. You don't know what difficult is. And we're not willing to say, you know what, the reason why we're complaining, the reason why we're walking around pouty, the reason why we're walking around throwing temper tantrums is because we're spoiled. We're spoiled. We've had it too easy. If we could just come to that one understanding, our country would change. But we don't. We are rewarding people who are victims with the Jussie Smollett case. He knew he would be rewarded if he was a victim. What kind of country is that?
Now, don't forget about the Native American who was beating the drum in the kid's face. Knew he'd be a victim. Right. The Rolling Stone case with the Virginia rape situation. You know, there's a fetish. You're fetishizing it, right? That's the word, right? Mm-hmm. You're taking it. You're making it into this like sexual preference, something everyone's striving for. It's sexy to be a victim.
And in that rape
this
case,
freaking country,
where she wasn't a victim,
and
everybody found out. Her excuse was, well, but this does happen, and I'm just bringing that to light. Mm-hmm. So it's okay.
It's always the case.
So even that was fine.
Yeah,
that was great.
They're saying that was
rewarded.
They're saying that was Smollett.
The Blaze has a list of stories, and I think they've even expanded on what we did on Monday. I think they have 30 fake hoax cases revolving around Trump. People saying Trump supporters did X, Y, and Z. There's a list on the Blaze of like 30 of them.
And they're all fake.
All turned out to be fake. Mm-hmm. And of course, the vast majority of them overwhelmingly embraced by the media, who said, wow, this is a real sign of what's really happening here, guys. And look, there are people who are awful and that do awful things. We just saw a guy arrested, this guy who was arrested, the Coast Guard guy who was, who's trying to emulate with the Norwegian mass murderer. Could have been really, really bad. There are really bad people.
But that normally doesn't happen.
But again, I think it was the Washington Post, Glenn, you pointed out, the writer saying, I want this to be true. It needs to be true because I want to show everyone this is how the world is. Well, maybe it's not. You ever stop and think maybe it's not? Maybe all of your guesses as to what white people and Trump supporters think, maybe they're wrong? Has that crossed your mind at all when we show you dozens of cases where the same thing happens, where you incentivize people to climb to the top of the ladder of our society by being a victim, and then shockingly, they all fake it and try to become a victim? Well, of course they do. You're telling everyone this is the best thing you can be. It might have been John Ziegler the other day who said, think of how intoxicating this must be for someone on the left to go in, this happens to you. Everyone fawns. Everyone says, oh my gosh, you're so brave. Everyone says you're so strong. You're making a difference. You're a hero. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Those people are evil. All the people that you don't like are bad and you're great. I mean, you can understand why someone would be incentivized to do something like this.
So this is why when I went to Mexico, I was so disgusted with our country. And I didn't say it at the time. I almost couldn't come into work for a week because it was the week we were tearing down the statues. And I had just done a 3-day tour in Mexico talking to actual slaves, people who had chains around their neck and scars on their back from being whipped. Okay. Women who were in their 20s. And I asked one of them as we were filming something, I said, I want you to say your name and that I was a slave, but my life is a blank piece of paper and only I write my story. And she looked at me and she said, no. And through a translator, she told me, you could say I was a slave. Others could say I was a slave. But even with a chain around my neck, I was never a slave. To me,
Wow.
that's inspiring. I leave that where a woman was actually enslaved to a bunch of college kids in beautiful universities with everything going for them, saying how they've been victimized by a statue of a guy who lived 120 years ago. Maybe our life is a little too easy.